Oh, you live. You live. So today we're going to talk a little bit about selling commercial monthly maintenance contracts to apartment communities, townhome communities, long-term care facilities. Because I think I actually owed this to you guys yesterday, 2 days ago, because on the forum I said that I was going to post a video. And if you guys aren't a member, if you own a pressure washing company, you're not a member of the Pressure Washing Resource Association forum, you are missing out. There's a ton of good info over there. But on there, I made a post about selling monthly maintenance contracts that are pretty easy to tackle and bring in monthly recurring revenue, and how you sell them. So if you guys want some more detailed info, I realize I'm probably not going to have a lot of live viewers, being that it's 7:30 on a Sunday morning. Hang on. Millie. Come here. You want to say hi? You want to say hi, Millie? Oh, hi, Millie. Oh, what a sweet hug. You say hi? It's 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and no one's going to, I know, Millie. All right. Let's let other people get the hug. Good girl. Oh, you're so strong. Good girl. All right, go. Penny, come here. Penny, come here. Come on, Penny. Come on, Penny. Penny, come here. Want to say hi? Oh, they can see you. They can see you. Come on. All right, you guys go. And then, buddy. Come on, dude. Oh, hiding under the desk. Say hi. Say hi, little old man. Say hi, buddy. All right, you guys go. All right, so now that I wasted a minute of everybody's time because it is Sunday morning, and I had to say good morning again to my babies. Why would you want to sell monthly recurring maintenance contracts to apartments, long-term care facilities, townhome communities, HOAs even? And none of this, if you're interested in doing flat work, like recurring wash contracts for gas stations, restaurants, stuff like that, you guys need to go check out the channel The Window Cleanse with Jordy, because he does a lot of that. I hate flat work. I try to avoid it as much as I possibly can, especially greasy, oily flat work. If it's just dirty, then I'll tackle it. And some flat work is included in some of these plans, but more often than not, it is just the flush. But the other thing you don't have to deal with apartment contracts and long-term care facilities is a ton of grease and oil, unless you get the dumpster pad, and then you can subcontract that out, because most folks with a hot water system in your area, if you don't have one, we don't have one. I don't expect to ever get one, but you could probably sub out a dumpster pad for 150 or 120 bucks to get something like that tackled on one of these large contracts. But why would you want to sell them? Well, again, it's monthly recurring revenue. So if you set up 5, 6, 7, 8 of these things, then you know you could reasonably have $10,000 to $20,000, depending on what you sell, coming in every month. Excuse me. On top of that, it's easier to clean stuff if it's been regularly maintained. I imagine most of us have gotten a call from an apartment community or a townhome community saying, things are bad, come out and give us a bid. And you get there and it looks like it hasn't been washed for 5 years, 10 years. Well, it's a lot more expensive as a one-off job because it's a lot harder to do. And to do an entire community is a huge pain. Now the property managers have to send out letters. They've got to warn the tenants. You've got to put out signs. You've got to rent hydrant meters for the entire time that you're there. These are a little different. With the monthly maintenance contracts, they're less expensive, but you know that you've got that monthly recurring revenue coming in, so you're not going to make as much money over the course of a year as you would if it was a one-off job. Those one-off jobs are a huge pain in the butt sometimes. These, you show up 1 day a month or 2 days a month, depending on how you sell it, for 8 hours or 6 hours or 16 hours. You keep stuff maintained, so it's not nearly as dirty. It's a lot easier to keep up with, and you make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 each month from some of these contracts, and everybody's happy because instead of at the end of the year or 5 years from now, you charging $50,000 on one of these facilities we have to clean it from top to bottom, like super deep clean, would be anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 is what we would charge. So we put that in the bid. Said, look, if we clean this thing on a monthly maintenance contract, you can save about $25,000 over the course of us cleaning this thing for 3 years. All we got to do is show up once a day or twice, or excuse me, once a month or twice a month, keep everything perpetually maintained. So 1 month it's this building and we rinse off the flat work around it. The next month it's this building, we rinse off the flat work around it. Next month it's this building, so on and so forth. But hey, Colin, cool. I do have somebody. But let's talk about how to find prospective customers. Chamber of Commerce. Check your Chamber of Commerce. They usually have ribbon cuttings or grand openings for apartment complexes if those apartment complexes are in the Chamber of Commerce. And I don't have my directory here. It's actually at the shop. But there's 14 apartment complexes in my Chamber of Commerce. My Chamber of Commerce is actually pretty small. Went to one, they had ribbon cutting. And at the ribbon cutting, you can do simple, easy things. And I didn't do it. This was my first one. But afterwards, I was like, I totally missed an opportunity to offer because I knew it was coming up. I could have called that property manager and offered to pay for the dessert because at the ribbon cutting, the property management company or the apartment complex is responsible for providing the food. But I could have called and said, hey, welcome to the community. I would love to support your ribbon cutting by paying for all the desserts. And the only thing I ask is that we can put out a welcome card that says, welcome to the community, XYZ apartment community, from your local friend in business, Squid's Pressure Washing LLC. Something like that. So it establishes, if you're longer established in the community and other business owners and property management companies are at these ribbon cuttings, and they see your name at the dessert table welcoming an apartment community into your community, it establishes you as it presents you as an established business. The other thing it does is it gets you in communication with the property manager, because the property manager very likely has to approve whatever desserts you want to pick. So not only do you get to call and say, hey, I'd love an opportunity to do this. If they say yes, then you get to follow back up and build a relationship, and you actually get to contact that person 2, if not 3 times in order to get this thing established. Then at the ribbon cutting, you get to show up before anybody else, talk to them again, and present, and then set up your desserts. So check out local chambers of commerce. And the newer the apartment, the better, really. This year, they're not going to want anything. But if you can get an opportunity to bid a recurring maintenance contract, next year, it might not be a bad idea once they start to see some of the landscaping marks where the lawnmowers have tossed dirt and grass up against the building. There is going to be, if it's an IFAS structure, if it's drive it, a year old, you're going to start getting black streaks. So it's up to you to follow up with them and check these places out. If you want to give them if you want to provide a bid for the perpetual maintenance contracts, you need to swing by from time to time and check things out and send an email, send a note, or even stop in and let the property manager know, hey, you remember that thing we talked about? It's starting. The black streaks on the drive it or the IFAS have started. And if they get much darker, they're there much longer, that's going to be a stain. Simple as that. The other way that you can find them, and one of the ways that I had a door open into an absolutely tremendous opportunity with a long-term care facility, was BNI. If you guys are not familiar with BNI, check it out. BNI, Business Networking International. Had an opportunity to look at a giant long-term care facility, and we're actually still working that out now. I need to schedule the follow-up estimate. Good, Colin. I think everybody should be a member of BNI. The trick with BNI is finding one that's established. Don't join a startup group. Check out all the BNI groups in your neighborhood, in your community. Like Matt out in Nashville, we were looking up BNI groups in Nashville, and there was like 10 just in his neighborhood. So you don't have to pick the first one you go to. But I digress. Check out BNI groups and check out all of them. You can visit all of them too. You can visit them up to twice before they ask you to start paying for the meeting. So you can still go in there and tell people what you're looking for, and you can go to 10, 12, 15 different meetings and say, I am looking for monthly maintenance contracts for apartment communities and long-term care facilities. And now they have a face. If they ever hear anything, they know anybody, property managers, maintenance people, landscapers, if they have apartment contracts. It just makes good sense to go let people know in these groups. And it's worth the hour and a half each week. It's usually early too, 7:30. Sometimes 7 o'clock, and then they're done an hour and a half later, so you can get to work. But there's 2 ways. So local chamber of commerce, look for grand openings of apartment complexes. When they're building apartment complexes, stop by and talk to the general contractor. Just stop in and say, hey, who's the property management company that's going to be taking over? They'll usually tell you. And sometimes you'll even see it on a board. If you drive by a big construction site and you see apartments going up, they may even have a banner on the fence or on the board that says, this is such and such property management company's future project or whatever. Send them a note. Send them a box of cookies into the office. If they're out of state, send them like a welcome card. Get something designed that's really nice. Says, hey, welcome to the community. This is what we do. And then send it again in 6 months. A little different. Send it again in a year. So this is what we do. So with the newer ones, you can keep up with those. You don't have to go through and do a super deep clean all at once. But you're not going to get it in the first year, probably. So there's two ways to find them. The other way is to start connecting with some of the property maintenance folks. Property maintenance folks are usually just like you and I. They're blue collar guys or gals, even. One of them is actually a gal. I say that like it's a surprise. But start connecting with those folks. If you can stop in and just say, hey, who's the property maintenance folks? You might run into a gatekeeper. You may not. They may just tell you right away. If you can't get in touch with the property maintenance people, find out what the hours of the office of the apartment is. And this is, if you don't take anything away from the rest of this, take this away. After the office closes, when you call the office, there is almost always a direct line for residents to get in touch with the property maintenance folks in case there is an emergency. That cell phone usually goes to either the on-call guy or the main guy, or it gets forwarded to his cell phone, no matter what. So don't call them after hours, but now you have the phone number to the maintenance folks, and all you have to do is call the apartment complex after their office closes. Now you can get in touch with them, do the same thing. Say, hey, I noticed something on one of the buildings. Would you be willing to take 10 minutes to do a walk around with me? Find out what kind of beer he likes. Find out what kind of lunch they'll like. Deliver some pizza to the property management guys, the maintenance guys. A lot of times I think those guys get, it's kind of a thankless job. And those guys get called 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, if water pipe breaks, anything like that. So they deserve free lunch, even if you don't get the job. But that's how you get in touch with the property management, the maintenance guys. You call the apartment complex after hours, and they'll give you a direct line a lot of time. So let's talk a little bit about what to do after you find the customers. And I don't really have great notes here. I just have what I printed off the forum. So some of this might be a repeat. But you got to have two estimates. Let's say you're given the opportunity to bid a monthly maintenance contract, or even, and well, let me take a step back. If you have apartment communities or condos or townhome communities or long-term care facilities that you have done a big in-depth clean for, they need to be the first people you go back to and say, hey, that was a big, intense job. Some of the tenants were unhappy. We got it done, but how big of a pain in the butt was that? Let's make it way less of a pain in the butt and take care of this thing perpetually, so we only have to disturb so many tenants at a time, and the thing is always clean, and we're in and out in half the time it takes to deep clean the entire property. Here's another thing that property managers and maintenance folks love. When you go to do the estimate and they walk around with you, carry your notepad, and one of the questions you should always ask is, which apartments or which townhomes are you always getting the most complaints from? Like, who are the squeakiest tenants? Because we will do our absolute best to make sure that we are on our P's and Q's. We don't do anything. We extra protect everything. We don't do anything to disturb that particular person. We chat with them if they want to come out and chat. Who are and this is probably the wrong phrase, but who are the problem tenants? Who are the squeakiest tenants? And make note of those apartment buildings in front of them. Say, okay, so these are the ones where we have to double down on making sure stuff is protected, making sure we're extra friendly, so on and so forth. They love that, because if you're going to go out of your way to make sure that a tenant doesn't chase them down to be squeaky, they love it. But 2 estimates. I digress. One, as a one-time cleaning job, assuming that they don't pick you right now to clean the entire complex, that estimate needs to show in-depth cleaning of siding, in-depth cleaning of all the concrete, the in-depth cleaning of roofs, if you want to add roofs in, if that's what you do. And that number is going to be high by nature. I mean, super in-depth cleaning of everything, top to bottom, all at once. Huge pain with permits for hydrant meters, so on and so forth. It's a pain. So that number is going to be tremendously high. The other estimate that you bring needs to be 12 line items with the total less expensive than an in-depth clean. And relatively, I'd say probably close to half as expensive as that, because that is assuming that you have 2 years or 3 years of buildup on that property. Now with those 12 line items and that other estimate, this is what we're doing month 1, and it needs to be pretty detailed with bullet points. I wouldn't, as detailed as you can get with bullet points. I wouldn't write out paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. And the reason for that is the bullet points are going to allow them to follow along when you schedule the follow-up estimate. You're going to send them both estimates and say, this is assuming that we have to super deep clean everything in 2 to 3 years if we don't start tackling this now. This estimate is the perpetual maintenance contract saying that we get everything clean on an annual basis. It's a lot less expensive. It's a lot less time consuming. This is the one that's easier on everybody. Right? Now, before you leave those estimates, well, I'm sorry. So you're going to send those estimates, but before you leave your walk around where you take your notes, you take all your pictures, you're going to schedule a second estimate walkthrough before you ever send them those estimates in the email. You have to. And you got to get it on the calendar with the property maintenance guy and the property manager and let them know. I know you're super busy. You have a ton on your plate. So to come back through and revisit these estimates is going to be somewhat inconvenient in the short term. I'm going to bring you guys lunch. I'm going to bring you guys some drinks, whatever, to make that a little bit easier, because in the long term, we're going to be a lot less of a headache than having to come back through and do this thing all at once. We're going to try to make things super easy for you. We understand your time's valuable. We're going to bring you lunch because I know it's an inconvenience, but if we could take an hour to walk through these estimates and get on the same page and answer each other's questions, I promise you it's worth that extra hour. And make it worth that extra hour. But get it on the calendar, the second walkthrough of the estimate. So in summary, you're going to take your pictures, take all your notes, write up the 2 estimates, one giant job, super deep clean, the other one 12 line items or 24 line items, depending on the size of the property, and you're going to send to both estimates. When you go back to do those estimates, in your notes, when you walk on the, so on the follow-up estimate, in your notes, when you walk around, you're going to say, I understand that unit XYZ, unit 1, 2, 3 in this building, there's some squeaky tenants. So we're going to go above and beyond with those units to make sure that you guys don't hear a peep, because we understand that sometimes tenants like to complain. Also, when you're walking around, this is what I'm talking about in line item 1. And this is everything that it includes. Bullet point 1, all exterior gutter faces, they get clean. Bullet point 2, all siding and window frames and door frames, whatever it is. So month 1 is going to have bullet points. Month 2 is going to have bullet points. Month 3 is going to have bullet points. At the end of it, explain to them, we have 8 hours booked for you each month, or 16 hours. And we're going to stop by and check in and bring you donuts on the first morning to let you know, hey, we're here. And you're going to see us for that full 8 hours. If it's 16 hours, you're going to see us again tomorrow at the exact same time. And if we bid this for 16 hours, you're going to see us for a full 16 hours. And if we finish up early for whatever reason, if there's anything that you see or see or remember while we're here that you thought, oh, shoot, that needs to be cleaned, let us know, because if we have extra time, we're going to get it tackled for you. But other than checking in the morning when you get your donuts, and then when we leave in the afternoon to come in and fill you in on progress, you're not going to hear from us. We're going to try to stay out of the way as much as possible, because property managers love when stuff is easy, because their job isn't really that easy. If you think about it, they get all the squeaky customers, or the squeaky tenants. I'm not going to explain why their job is hard, but their job is hard. So your job when selling this is to make their life as easy as possible while you're there and while you're setting up the jobs. The other thing that you can do is you can offer to notify the tenants. If you're doing 1 building at a time or 2 buildings at a time, say, hey, we can notify these tenants, if you would like, via phone call and email, to let them know not only a week ahead of time, but the night before if we need anything done. They won't let you do it because the numbers and the emails are private, but give them the opportunity. Try to take something off their plate. And even though you know that they can't give you that information, they like knowing that you want to make things as convenient as possible for them in those estimates. Hey, Jordy, I just saw your comment. So recap, send 2 estimates. The big one, the 12-month or the 24-month estimate. When you do the walk around, explain the difference between the 2 again, because you probably said it. Not again. I apologize. I need to take a step back. So in the first estimate walkthrough, when you're walking around with the maintenance guy or the property manager, you're not selling anything. You're asking a bunch of questions. You're asking what their concerns are. You're asking who the squeaky tenants are. You need to get as much information from them as possible and listen. Just ask questions. Second one, when you walk through, this is when you're trying to sell it a little bit. And you always sell it as because it is. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more convenient. It's less expensive to do this on a monthly basis. Now, this is how I do it. And this is going to send chills up some people's spines, because there's always those folks out there. You're not charging what the job is worth. I know what it's worth to me to have 6 or 7 large recurring monthly checks coming in so that I can have a bunch of time off the rest of the month. So I find out what the average monthly rent is for all the units, or like that long-term care facility, what the average cost for an annual tenant, like what an average tenant What's the monthly average revenue brought in by a tenant? Simple enough. And with apartments and townhomes, you can find out that pretty easy using the internet, or even just asking the people at the front, like, what's the rent range? How many units do you have? Or what's the average monthly rent? Because on these, I try to position it in a way that if it's 8 hours worth of work and the average monthly rent is $1,000, I try to do $1,000 worth of work in that 8 hours, or pretty darn close to it, in the line items. It's pretty easy to sell these as, hey, it's going to cost one tenant's revenue in order to keep this place perpetually maintained. And for that $1,000 a month, this is the work that we can do on a monthly basis. So I hope that makes sense. If it's a huge property and you've got to schedule 2 days, and it makes sense to schedule 2 days, 2 tenants rent. Because if it's that large of a property and they've got 300, 400 tenants, 2 tenants isn't going to make or break the bank. But for that 2 days, if you can do $2,400 and you know it's on the calendar and it's guaranteed, it's pretty nice. And that's as simple as the pricing is, for me anyway. You guys can feel free to price it any which way that you would like, but at this point, that's how I like to price it. Get a bunch of these when you're there. With these site maps, when you go back for the second estimate, you can have little notes on your site map, and you can make copies that say this is month 1, and you can section it off. And you can do it in magic marker. They don't care. They just want to see a plan of attack and why you're bidding that property the way that you're bidding it, and how you're going to get it all done in 12-month increments or 24-month increments as far as the maintenance goes. So the site map is important because this is month 1, and you can sketch it out for them and make a bunch of copies, or you can have somebody sketch it on multiple site maps. But this is your map with estimate in hand and your site map to walk around and sell this contract. Month 1, we're doing A. Month 2, we're doing B. And this is what you get for that. And this is how we're going to make it as convenient as humanly possible. When you go back, take some estimates and site maps and put it on a clipboard for them. So when you're walking around, they can scribble notes. But again, like I posted in the forum, the key phrase is, it takes less than 3 tenants or less than 2 tenants, or however you structure it. It takes less than 2 tenants to keep this property completely and totally, 2 tenants revenue to keep this property totally maintained as far as an exterior cleanliness plan goes, as far as this exterior cleanliness plan goes. So it takes less than 2 tenants revenue, or it takes less than 1 tenant's revenue. Burn that into your brain if you're trying to figure this stuff out. Because I've seen more property managers go, like, it's a lot easier to stomach than just saying, well, this is going to be $24,000 this year, right? Oh, the other thing that has worked really well is, prospective tenants love seeing us on site because they see that the place is being maintained. They see that it's always clean. And what people want in their home is that it's clean and maintained and respectable, and they love to come home to it. Current tenants love it for the same reasons. The place is constantly being maintained. This is their home. They love seeing us here, and more often than not, we become friends with the tenants. And I won't say that part, but we become friends with the tenants. What I was going to say was, and we try to befriend the squeaky wheels so that we can build a relationship with them. And we're always in their good graces too. You guys know what I mean by the squeaky wheels, I hope, after the first part of that. But yeah, so newer apartments that aren't so funky. If you get an apartment or a townhome community job where it's the full deep clean, that's what they want you to estimate. Take in both estimates still. Even though your initial contact was not for the full deep clean, or was not for the maintenance contract. So let me make sure that's clear. If you get a call for the full deep clean of a apartment or a townhome community, same thing. Take two estimates. One with the perpetual monthly maintenance contract that after it's deep cleaned, you can start next year. And they'll never have to pay that big, high price, deep clean ticket ever again if it's perpetually maintained. Let's see. All right. So how to find a prospective customer. I gave you guys that. I think you guys can go through and do a replay. Landscaping marks from mowers, mulch, and mud. When you're doing a walk around on some of these newer places, if they have grass, they already have those marks. And it's pretty easy to point out with the grass that gets tossed up against the side of brand new buildings, stuff like that. If you see it, you're like, man, that's a shame. Like they couldn't, when you're walking the property, like that's a shame. They couldn't have turned the blower the other way or the grass vent the other way. So you bring it up and you make it a point, like, how come they're not taking care of this building? And your focus is, that's a shame. This is a brand new building and it's already dirty. You guys see what I'm doing there? The other note I had was downstreaming a weak mix. If the buildings are already clean, you don't have to go through with your strongest mix to knock off a wall of algae, right? So you can go in there and you can literally wash this thing down with like a half-strength mix because it's already clean, and it'll get the dirt and the dust and kill any algae or anything that is starting. So you get to save on bleach. You don't have to worry about the plants as much, the greenery. Weak mix if you're doing preventative maintenance. That was another note I had. I'm going to circle back. When you go to some of these, when you go to your second estimate walkthrough on your clipboard and their clipboard, if the surface is vinyl, if it's IFAS, if it's Drive-It, those are the same thing, but I know we talk about, we call it different things in different parts of the country. You got to take pictures, and in their estimate packet, you have to add pictures of prior surfaces that are similar to those that folks have let go unmaintained. I mean, they've got to show the black streaks and the algae, and then after photos. So they've got to show unmaintained, and then you got to show after photos. So, hey, this is what we did, but this is why this costs more if we wait. If we get on top of it now, this stuff should never happen. And the beautiful thing about staying on top of stuff is you can actually downstream IFAS if there's nothing on it yet, or if it's just barely starting, and you don't have to break out the 12 volt. You don't have to break out the X-Jet. It'll tackle it. So weak mix on Drive-It is actually what Drive-It recommends. Like if you look at the actual, the cleaning instructions from the manufacturer, Drive-It. But in your packet, when you go with the two estimates, include before and after pictures of stuff that's gotten really funky that you've had to clean and why it's so expensive. let's see. A lot of these are going to say, they're not going to say okay this year. Like this one, they asked us to bid all of these with parking garages. I hope I didn't get the name of the place in there, because competitors, I understand, like to poach. But they were talking about budget for next year. Some of them will call you in order to plan for their budget for next year. Some, they'll give you an opportunity to bid it, and then they'll tell you that's not in the budget this year. But if you're communicating regularly after that first estimate, you find out when their annual budget year is, because some companies it's October, not even January. So find out when it is. And if it's October, that's beautiful, because then you could potentially get stuff on the calendar for the start of the next season. And if you're in warmer climates, you may have winter work. But what do we got? So annual budgets. It's totally okay if they don't say that okay this year, or if they don't give you the go ahead this year, because they will if you stay on top of them. If you communicate regularly, explain it, you stop by from time to time, you point out the stuff that you were talking about, because stuff does get dirty over time, and bring it up. Say, hey, you remember that stuff we talked about? It's already started on this building. When you go, before you go, when you have your packet in the clipboard with your 2 estimates and your before and after pictures and a copy of your insurance and your W-9, and you go, make sure that you have well practiced that proposal. You know a route on your map in order to make that seamless, so you're not stumbling and wasting the other people's time. Property managers don't have a ton of time. They are busy people. Same with the maintenance folks. So if you book off an hour, make sure that you can get your point across in an hour. And you do that in a timely way by planning your route, practicing your proposal, and delivering it within that time frame. If you tell them an hour, it cannot go to an hour and 10 minutes. Because after that hour, they're looking at their watch. They're like, how many phone calls have I missed? Right? And this is what I like most about these projects and how you get paid on the same day with a commercial contract. The first month, you're going to send your invoice and they're going to pay it 30 days later. So the first month, you feel like you're working for free, right? But if you have these set up on a monthly basis, that second month, you're going to show up and you're going to do the work. And it's very likely that you may have already gotten your check from last month, or when you get home, the check's going to be in the mailbox. So mail checks a lot of times. So the first one's going to feel free, but the next one, it's going to feel like you got paid same day. And then the next one, it's going to feel like you got paid same day. And the next one's going to feel like you got paid same day. Because if you book it 30 days apart and you're always invoicing it 30 days, it sounds silly, but it feels like you're getting paid on commercial contracts same day. And then if for whatever reason, I should say, these contracts are open-ended. I never put a close date on these contracts, or a 3-year time frame, or a 5-year time frame, because the maintenance perpetually, property managers are going to change all the time. They're going to get moved to, an experienced property manager is going to get moved to a new complex, or they're going to get out of property management because it's tough, or whatever. So these monthly perpetual contracts are actually helpful for the apartment community, because it's really inexpensive. The place is always getting taken care of. They don't have to worry about rework, or a new property manager doesn't have to worry about figuring out what to do at the 12-month mark or 3 months. So open-ended contracts. And some other notes. If you guys have other questions, let me know. I know that I ramble quite a bit, and we're running it up here at 45 minutes. But if you get $8,000, $10,000, $20,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and it takes you 2 weeks a month or 3 weeks a month to get there, there's no reason why you can't reasonably take, if let's say you're an owner operator or your monthly expenses are $4,000, you can legitimately have a lot more time off than you ever had before if you're constantly chasing 3 houses a day or the next one-off commercial cleaning job. It's just, that feels like you're a rat on a wheel, man. Like, I gotta find the next job. I gotta find the next job. Kind of like crackhead, right? But if you've got a constant supply of work and you're staying in contact with these folks, it's life-changing to have recurring revenue and something where you know that you're going to show up every day, or you're going to show up at least once a month and get paid. By the time you get home, there's going to be a check in the mailbox. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I do ramble. I apologize. It was Sunday morning, and I sincerely did not even expect to have one person show up. And I think at one point I had 5. So if you guys stuck with me for the entire thing, I really appreciate it, because the video file, you can pause and fast forward and rewind and stuff like that later. So I do appreciate it. If you guys have friends in the industry that you think this could be helpful for, please share it, and like and subscribe if you would. It's genuinely appreciated. And enjoy your Sunday.